Shalom to the elect. Got to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakar, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the Akim pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Aqua who are listening and learning. Coming at you another lesson, the Lord's wouldn't be edifying. Now this is another Edomite. And he bringing out the whole truth, man. Okay, everything about North America and the collapse of North America. Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter Babylon. Okay, mystery Babylon. He is letting it all out, man. Okay, this is a new update. The title of this lesson, a new update on the fall of North America, Babylon the Great. And I'm just going to read a couple precepts, which is Psalm 64:8. Well, basically, I'm just going to quote it. They shall make their tongues to fall upon themselves, man. Okay? And Isaiah 47:1, it said, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne. Okay? There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Listen, man. Everything is coming down with North America, man. It's over, man. It's about to collapse, man. And all you who think you got money in the bank, you living good, all that's about to come to naught, man. This is Isaiah 24 and verse 10. They should not drink wine with a song, strong drink. It said, they should not drink wine with a song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. And the city is left desolation, and the gates is smitten with destruction. Okay, everything is falling with this country, man. Everything. And this Edomite is bringing out all this truth, man. It's over.
Welcome to True News. I'm Edward Zoll. Amid the turbulence produced by America's seasonal changing of the guard in the Washington Beltway, markets around the globe had a volatile quarter. From midterms to Brexit woes, and even missiles showering down on various locations in the Middle East, headlines have distracted from the very real economic effects of U.S. sanctions on Iran. Other than creating a speculator's nightmare, which has pushed oil prices down 25% globally this month alone, the pressure has accelerated plans for an alternative to the U.S.-dominated financial system. The Society for the Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, or SWIFT, as U.S. officials have called it, as they have used it as a means of economic blackmail against their geopolitical foes. Aside from oil and plans for a new SWIFT, October saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average bleed 1,300 points in the week of October 10th, wiping approximately $1.7 trillion off the S&P 500 and nearly $3 trillion from global stocks. Some of those losses were recovered, however, by defense industry stocks the day after the election in the biggest midterm gains seen in the market since 1992. Without the support of a budding bipartisan military-industrial complex, China's Shanghai Index is down over 30% this year alone, as the world's second largest economy mirrors its Atlantic competitors in a drowning of debt by a prospective interest rate hikes. Brussels is also feeling the pain, with the pan-European stock 600 dropping to its lowest close of the year, and the other major economies such as Turkey, South Africa, Brazil, Venezuela, India, Hong Kong, Australia, Argentina, Italy, Indonesia, and Singapore sinking deeper into bear market territory. The world of cryptocurrencies seemed to be faring no better, with Bitcoin trading $6,000, its lowest in 3 months, and its market cap peers, Ethereum and XRP, faring no better. Even precious metals have had a rough year, with gold dropping to $1,200 an ounce from its year's beginning at $1,317.31. Was it the rise of the resistance that spooked investors, or the revenge of the neocons that deployed a new iteration of America's bomb-first foreign policy? Or could it be an after effect of President Trump's crusade for returning jobs and factories to the homeland in what many have called the biggest public rejection in the past century of globalism and the old New World Order? What can be seen as self-evident from this turbulent era is that the frustrations of 2012 birthed the presidency of Donald Trump. But with socialism on the rise, an economic 9/11 on the horizon, and palace intrigue commanding the focus of we the people, what will the anger of 2020 conceive for the future of our nation? To discuss the trajectory of these warring movements, it's my honor to welcome the master of trends himself, the one and only Gerald Celente. Gerald Celente is the founder of the Trends Research Institute, where he successfully forecasted trends since the 1980s. Mr. Celente is also the publisher of the internationally distributed quarterly magazine, Trends Journal, of which I'm a reader. Welcome back to True News, Mr. Celente. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. By the way, the Trends Journal is now a monthly. We just went monthly after, since 1991, it's been a quarterly. So now it's gone into a monthly.
Well, congratulations, sir. It's an excellent piece of financial information. I think it should be mandatory reading in our school system. It definitely would help with the economic illiteracy, I think, among our children. But, sir, the first question I have for you is in a special trends alert, you pointed out that the U.S. midterm elections had the highest turnout in 50 years, but the lowest mentioning of war or the path to peace. Why was peace such a dirty word on the 2018 campaign trail?
Well, it's been a dirty word for a long time. But what happens is, I began my career at a graduate school running campaigns. I worked on the Yonkers campaign. It's a sizable city, almost 300,000 people in a day. And I was the number 2 guy running it and worked on campaigns in Westchester County in the Bronx. And then they sent me up to Albany, and I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. And I designed and instructed American politics and campaign technology at St. John's University. It was one of the first courses that taught people how to run campaigns. So to answer your question, what they do is they do polling. They find out what are the hot issues that they want, the people want to hear and that they're going to talk about. Major issues aren't of any importance at all. So what they do is they play the poll numbers. And the poll numbers showed healthcare, economy, immigration, and identity issues. So they ignored the longest war in American history, the Afghan War. Doesn't make the news at all anymore. And as we all know, those of the people that listen to True News and read and think for themselves, America's losing that war. There's been no gains at all, and the Taliban are taking over more and more of the nation. Not a peep about it. Nothing about what's going on with the United States military and several other countries, bombs away on a daily basis. Not a peep about it. And on the other end, as you mentioned, about the defense budget, and the quote from CNBC, 85% of the Democrats in the Senate voted for the $716 billion defense bill, and 68% of the Democrats voted for the defense bill in the House. So there is no left and right anymore. It's the war parties. And the Democrats brought in some almost 10 people, either former veterans, CIA, the State Department, and other security officials that are now running or are in the House of Representatives. And you just saw an election over there in Kansas, a solidly Republican state, where they just elected a governor, a woman who bragged about her family's military credentials. So that's the mindset of the nation, and the people just don't seem to care about it.
Gerald, it's very interesting, that they will talk about their military credentials, but no one wants to talk about the actual military wars. You mentioned Afghanistan. It's many people don't know, but even the current U.S. commander in Afghanistan, General Scott Miller, has said that there is no military solution to the conflict. And General Mattis said this earlier in the year. The one war or war fronts you are hearing about, however, are Russia and China. I don't know if you heard about this drill, Trident Juncture in Europe. It was the largest drill, military drill in Europe since the Cold War, held by NATO. Sir, do you feel like they actually benefit part of keeping the public away from these topics? Or again, is it purely down to the lack of polling on this, that the reason why it didn't come up during the campaign season?
Well, again, it's the polling. They just want to win the elections. And again, the wars have been foreign in people's minds for quite a while. And when you're talking about the military drills that they just held near the Russian borders, actually, as well, I mean, can you imagine if Russia was holding major drills up in Canada, and China was running major military drills down in Mexico, and they had ships off the west and east coast of America, how up in arms Americans would be? And this whole mentality of, by the way, they're fighting wars of, there's a saying, the generals are always fighting the last war.
That's correct.
I was a keynote speaker at VMI, Virginia Military Institute, and they brought me in to talk about New Millennium Warfare. And I was the keynote speaker, and then all the other people came in behind me talking about it. These are all obsolete wastes of money that they're going into the military-industrial complex by building $13 billion aircraft carriers and all this other obsolete equipment. It's going to be a whole different kind of new millennium warfare, from biological to cyber to zaps right out of the sky that you never saw coming, that destroy fleets rather than just one ship. So it's a whole new world order. And again, you're in business, I'm in business. Who would hire anyone that has not had a success in 73 years? And the American military has not had one since World War II.
Yeah, that's cold,
And you
man.
mentioned about Mattis and the other general talking about Afghan being losing war. Yeah, I mentioned that back in Howard Trent's
Esau said they ain't won nothing since World War II, man.
Saying that if Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off,
hey, that's cold.
If the British couldn't do it and the Russians couldn't do it, what makes the Americans think that they're going to be successful?
They can't,
We're
man.
An invading nation, and people will die to the last person to get rid of the occupiers.
Hey, Esau said Alexander the Great couldn't do it. The British couldn't do it.
Tried to take over the United States.
Hey, man, that's
cold.
Speaking
of invading nations, we know the topics, especially over the summer, was the topic of Iran. We know now that sanctions have been implemented on the oil trade and the use of the SWIFT banking system by Iran. There was a threat that if these sanctions were to go forward, Iran would close the Straits of Hormuz, where much of the world's oil goes through. Sir, with these sanctions, and especially with Iran now turning off the GPS markers on their tankers, so where do you think this is going into the new year? Do you think they will continue to try to pressure Tehran into capitulating?
Yes. It never ends. And again, it's not only the United States, it's as we've been writing about for, it was one of our top trends for this year. It was called Market Shocks, Mass Murder. And when we said the markets will shock for the mass murder that may erupt in the Middle East, with the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel targeting Iran. Again, it's economic warfare. And sanctions is a nice word for it. But if you're cutting out their major source of income and not letting anyone do business with them, and the country's going through all this turmoil, and American people like Pompeo and others saying that they want regime change, you're going to see destabilization there, and especially what's going on with Saudi Arabia and their war against Yemen, and it's spreading throughout the Middle East, Syria, again, another one. So what happens is, if, Edward, this explodes into a real, a full-blown war, as it may have the potential to do, you're going to see oil prices, now they're low, they've gone down some 25% very rapidly, they'll go over $100 a barrel. And that'll destroy the global economies and the equity markets, particularly the global economies, in the sense that the strong dollar, because of rising interest rates, their currencies have gone way down. You're looking at the Indian rupee, for example, hitting all-time lows against the dollar. India imports 80% of its energy. They just lost how much of their currency has declined, and now what is oil-based? Dollar-based. So now they have to pay more money to get less oil as their economy is slowing down if the price of oil continues to escalate should war break out.
Now, so in regard to Iran and the sanction of them, you mentioned Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Something he's come out pretty heavily against is this new special purpose vehicle, something the European Union, in conjunction with Russia, have been negotiating basically as an alternative to SWIFT, to now not just let Tehran, for example, continue trade, but any nation that comes under sanctions. Do you know much about this? Do you think this will be successful as an alternative?
No, I don't. And the reason being is that the only reason the United States currency is strong, one, of course, rising interest rates, which drives up the value of the dollar, is that all the other ones are so weak. And when you look at international trade, and when you look at the Forex markets each day, you're looking at the United States dollar being the dominant currency. And we don't see the euro, particularly now. We just got reports coming out from the IMF about the problems with default bonds and a slowdown in the European economy. Matter of fact, you're looking at the German economy slowing much more than anticipated. And then what other currencies do you have? Hey, how about that Japanese yen? Did you hear this latest study that came out? The Bank of Japan bought $5 trillion worth of worthless junk bonds. They own more junk than the entire Japanese economy combined. So there's no other alternative to the dollar. It's not because the dollar is so strong, it's because the others are so weak. Having said that, the beginning of a new SWIFT could be the beginning of the end of the dollar should the United States continue to pursue its foreign policy in the direction it's going in. And the best example I could give is one called World War I, when the sun was setting on the British Empire and their pound began to decline against the dollar, and the dollar took over the pound. So that's the direction America's heading in now, should they continue on this course.
You know, this past weekend was the anniversary, the 100th anniversary of World War I, the ending it, the armistice. And there was a lot of talk at that ceremony of a new European army, one that would be between France and Germany. And while this is happening, Jody, you've probably seen this, the Brexit vote it appears that is not going to be going forward. Theresa May today is battling with her cabinet to sell a half Brexit. With these countries, especially in Europe, you said that their economy is slowing down. Do you think Europe is going to try to attempt to break the mold, try to beat that trend that defeated the British Empire in the 1900s? Or do you think they're going to be going the direction of the United States currently?
Well, I think it's the beginning of the end of the European Union. And you have the person, that said they want a European army, that little Macron over there, over in France, a little guy of nothing, former Rothschild banking boy. And his popularity rating is in the 30s. He's not very well respected. He just keeps shooting his mouth off and really nothing else behind it. And I say the beginning of the end of the euro and the eurozone because of what's going on in Italy with Cinque Stelle, the five-star movement, and Lega League in the north, that want to really pull away from Brussels. And they're doing it now by saying, no, we're going to design our own budget, whether you like it or not, and you're not going to tell us what to do. There was a finance minister that they were going to bring on when they won the elections recently. His name was Paolo Savona, and an 81-year-old economist. And they rejected him because of the power of the prime minister who rejected it before Lega and Cinque Stelle merged. His name was Conte. the prime minister, they rejected Paolo Savona. Paolo Savona made it very perfectly clear. All the euro has done in the eurozone is to make the rest of Europe a colony of Germany. Because the reality is, if the Germans were on the Deutschmark and not the declining euro, as it has been for so long, they would never be able to export the amount of product that they've been exporting as the world's second largest exporter. So that's why we've seen the blowback happening in Italy. We believe this is going to be the end of the euro. It's the beginning of the end of it. And when it collapses, the global economies will start melting down with it, as with China. I mean, you look at the problems going on in China. You look at their car sales just this last month. They're down 12%. You're looking at debt levels. They have a debt to GDP ratio of about 300. They went from $900 billion worth of debt in 1992 to over $30 trillion worth of debt today. Wow. People are rioting in the streets as housing developers are lowering the price of their apartments, and the people are taking to the streets and fighting against it, saying, we bought it for this much, and now you're selling it for this much less? So China has real problems. It's a global meltdown, and America's in the best shape, even though we're not in good shape than the rest of them.
Now, I was reading in this month's Trends Journal that you talked about an economic 9/11, a terror strike of sorts. So could you detail this? And will it come from the balloon of debt exploding?
The balloon of debt, rising oil prices, and war. Those are our three concerns. When you look at the United States markets, and again, we wrote about this as it was happening with Trump's tax cuts. Bush pulled the same thing, George Bush, back in around 2005. What they did is they allowed the country, they gave them tax breaks and allowed them to repatriate money from overseas, the multinationals. Where did the money go? It went into stock buybacks. That's what drove the markets up, and merger and acquisition activity. We're looking at stock buybacks this year at about $1 trillion, record-breaking. Same thing with merger and acquisitions, record-breaking. Now, they're tightening up the money. As they tighten up the money, that cheap money flow stops. That's why you have the markets going down. Having even said that, however, the United States is going to go into a slowdown. You're seeing it already, Edward. We can't take 5% 30-year fixed mortgage. You're looking at new mortgage applications. You're looking at home sales going down. Housing construction, you want to bet on a bear market, deep in bear market. Look at the home builders' stocks in this country. They're down over 30%. The bear market's in 20%. No one could take real money. The only thing that boosted this economy and the global economy was quantitative easing, zero and negative interest rate policies. Two things they never taught you about in Economics 101 or graduate school. So the cheap money flow stopping, when that stops, that's the economic 9/11 combined with war.
You know, for a lot of advisors, they like to tell their customers, even people my age, that real estate and stocks are a safe haven for money, to maybe put something in for investment for the future. As you're saying here is that these are very dangerous assets to be holding or to be investing in it. Where should someone my age be looking at to invest for the future?
The mistakes I've made in my life in forecasting, like for example, I thought things would get a lot worse after after the panic of '08. I didn't know about quantitative easing and zero and negative interest rates. I told you Japan has $5 trillion the Bank of Japan bought. I mean, you have negative interest rates in Europe. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. The point being, real estate. The prices go down and the prices go up. And that's the mistake I've made over the years in thinking that, this is going to keep them down. They don't. They come up with a new scheme to boost things up. So yes, there'll be a down time, but life goes on. And when you look at the real numbers going on, look at our population explosion. It took from whenever the place was created to about 1900 to have 1.5 billion people on the planet at one time. Today, how many do we have? 6 billion more in 100 years. They're going to need some place to live. The economies will turn around again, but it's hard to predict the cycle of it. So I would say, again,
this
without
country
giving
falling.
investment advice
Ain't
to
nothing
trend
turning around.
forecasters, gold and real estate. Real estate not now, of course, because the prices are going to go down. Because if interest rates stay high, and that's the other if, by the way. You know, we just saw this report that came out from Paul Volcker. He has a new book, the former Fed chair under Ronald Reagan. And it tells a story of how he was called to the White House. And James Baker, the chief of staff, said to Volcker, you have orders from the president not to raise interest rates before election day. The president has power over the Fed. These are not the brightest cats on the planet, man. Look at their track record. Listen to B.S. Bernanke, the little clown that used to be there before, saying there's never been a national real estate slowdown and he doesn't see a recession coming as we're forecasting the panic of '08. So they don't know what they're doing. This is one big guessing game, and under pressure, the United States Federal Reserve will not raise interest rates is our forecast. And that pressure may be building now. So yes, they may raise them again in December, but possibly not 3 times in 2019. And staying on interest rates, over there in Europe, the European Union, we just heard from the ECB head over there, Mario Draghi, former head of the Goldman Sachs gang back in the day when he was the head of the European division, saying that they may not raise interest rates until the summer of 2019. So what I'm saying is gold, because of the destabilization of the geopolitics and socioeconomics, and we have been forecasting now for the better part of a year that gold's bottom is $1,200, and real estate at a later time, not now.
That's very interesting, Joe. So right now it's at 1,200, so you're saying the bottom is reached for gold. But even going back to speaking about the future of the country, no, 2019, 2020 will once again be dominated by election season, election talk. This past election season, Gerald, saw a large turnout of socialists my age. It was a young candidate from New York, the city itself, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who actually ran on some of the things you mentioned, the polling, free healthcare, free education, free everything. Gerald, this push towards socialism in the next 5 to 10 years, do you think it's real? And what does that pose for the future in the next 5 years, for example?
Well, it's a blowback from the other end. Again, there's no middle ground anymore. When people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. There's a saying we used to have in the Bronx. And that's what's going on. People are losing everything. That's why they vote for these people. What alternative they have? Look at the other factors, Edward. We have 3 people in this country: Bill Gates, Bezos, and Buffett, that have more money than half the population combined. Look what just happened. You want to talk about socialism? How about fascism? How about the merger of state and corporate powers? This is the opposite end. They just did it here in New York with the guy that born on third base and thought he had a home run over here, Andrew Cuomo, who would be a nobody if his daddy wasn't Mario, like his brother over there, Chris, who's on CNBC, CNN. You think these guys would be anywhere if daddy wasn't governor? And what did he just do? He just gave Amazon a $5 billion bonus, $5.5 billion between New York and Alexandria, Virginia, so they can open up another headquarters here. It calculates to $48,000 in taxpayer money for each employee in New York State. That's called fascism, the merger of state and corporate powers. How about too big to fail? In capitalism, there's no such thing. You rise and fall on your own merits. Unless, of course, you're a member of the Goldman Sachs gang, the Merrill Lynch mob, or all the other ones. Hey, we're too big to fail. We want your money. So what you're seeing are the extremes here. And that's why it's happening. Because look again at the data. You're a young person, you look at the millennials, they're still living with mommy and daddy in their 30s.
That's correct.
Because they can't afford to buy anything. They got lousy jobs, working in slave landing for the multinationals. And again, because of the deregulation of the Robinson-Patton Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust Act, that prohibited this from happening. And that's why America used to be the land of opportunity, when you had your moms and pops that could compete against the bigs because of quality and service, but no more, because it's been a total sellout. Whether it's the military, industrial, intelligence, cyber complex, or on the other end, giving it all to the multinationals. Look, Trump complains about China. They're stealing all our
intellectual
research.
property.
Yeah, no, they're not. The corporations gave it to them. I'll tell you what you do. You can open up over here in China. You're only going to allow you can't own the place. You got to come in partners with us, but you only can be a 49% partner and bring all your technology over here because we don't know what the hell we're doing. And yeah, sure, we'll go over there. We'll use your slave labor. We'll give you everything we have. We'll bring the product back to the other countries and we can mark it up more and even make more money. And the guy that sold us out, and we began this talking about war. I grew up at a time during the Cold War when morons, you talked about if they should have the Trench Journal in schools. What are you kidding? It'd be way over their head. They're brainwashing institutions. They had us, adults, having us hiding under a desk in case a nuclear bomb went off, around the corner. Like that was going to save your life. I went through the whole Cold War. I went through the Vietnam War era. Hate those commies, those stinking, rotten, lousy commies. We better stop them in Vietnam before those dominoes keep falling. They'll be on the shores of California. But hey, we could do business with China, the biggest by far 1.3 billion person communist country, because we can make some money with it. But when we want to start a war, then we'll go after those commies. China's taking over the world. The business of China is business, and any way they can do it. The business of America has become war. The Chinese they didn't steal it. The Europeans and the American manufacturers took our research that we paid for and gave it away so they could make more money.
It seems to be the name of the game now is going into what's blending the two, war and business, technology. The new era of technology, artificial intelligence, robotics. You mentioned Amazon. I found that very interesting. Actually, Toronto was happy they didn't win that bid, but Amazon is leading the world in automating its factories. It may not even produce any jobs that it pretends to be able to offer to cities like New York and Northern Virginia. But with technology, I've noticed the Trench Journal was very early when it came to seeing how technology was going to affect the world. In regard to voting, what happens, for example, when we have digital voting? Do you think that's on the horizon?
Well, we should have we call it blockchain voting. Look, you see, Edward, throughout the year, probably, tens of trillions of dollars or more are transferred around the world. Poof, 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 poof. And now everyone's using blockchain technology, all the advancements of it in the major corporations and banking and financial systems. Once your transaction is made, it's blocked. Boom. Closed. Look at the stupid election system we have in this country. You go out on election day, you got to wait online, you got some arrogant jerk over there that's playing Mr. and Mrs. Important one day, treating you like garbage when you're putting your name down there like you're a criminal, and then you got to fill out all this stupid garbage, then you got another moron watching you stick it in the thing to make sure it's being registered. And who owns this technology? So the whole game is, look what they're doing. They're having a recount in Florida.
Yes, Broward County.
How long is it taking him to recount? They started what, several days ago, and it's not going to be until Thursday by the time they have the numbers.
And the machines are overheating. Did you hear that? The machines are overheating.
And they had to bring in other machines from other places because they only had like 6 of them. And they're not counting all the ballots that, oh, no, we're only counting certain ones while they say they're going to count all. No, they're not. So the whole system is a joke. And the reason it's like that is so the Bloods and the Crips could stay in power. People like to call them Democrats and Republicans, but to me, by their track record and their deeds, they're murderers and thieves.
Wow.
I mentioned stealing our dough for too big to fails, bailouts, and anything else they could rob us
John
of.
10 and
to give
10.
us
A thief
tax
come not
breaks
but to
to
steal and to
billionaires,
kill
the
and
richest
to
man in the
destroy,
world,
man.
And they start wars based on lies.
They're just thieves,
So they
man.
don't want
All they do is take,
They
man.
don't want to bring direct democracy into this nation, where we the people have a voice and not politicians. Politicians don't represent us. They represent the people that pay them off. People that believe in Democrats and Republicans call them campaign contributions. Adults call it bribes and payoffs. So that's the other thing. We want direct democracy. We don't have a representative form of government. And with blockchain democracy, voting, you want to go to war, let the people vote. We're the ones that pay for it with our money and our lives. All you little boys and girls out there, you don't go fight. And your boys and girls don't go fight. You send the rest of us. So let us vote. You like that tax plan? Let us vote. Oh, the people are too stupid. The people are too stupid. Hey, if you think Lindsey Graham's brilliant, or Nancy out-of-mind Pelosi, or Dianne Not-So-Feinstein, or Mitch McConnell's a genius, knock yourself out.
Yeah, it's an interesting prospect, Joe, because I think a lot of people my age and younger would love to vote on an app, vote via computer, vote via the internet. We mentioned Broward County. Right now, we're seeing rampant corruption, rampant fraud, reports of this, and we're not seeing a lot of intervention at the government level. You mentioned it's probably because of the bipartisan nature of the gang system in government. But at what point do you think that my generation takes over the reins? Do we even take over the reins in the next 10 years, do you think, to enact things like blockchain voting?
It starts at a bigger level, and it goes back to what we began talking about as war. When you have a society that engages in mass murder, costs trillions to kill millions. There's a saying, of course, the fish rots from the head down. And that's become the moral consciousness of the nation. So we have to go into a different direction, we believe, and then the rest follows. One of the programs I launched is OccupyPeace.com. And it's the only peace program with an action plan. Close the bases overseas, bring home the troops to secure the homeland, have them rebuild our rotted infrastructure rather than spending money rebuilding the ones we destroy in other nations, and have Congress vote to go to war, which they have not done since World War II, and blockchain democracy, where we have referendums on each state ballot where we tell the congressmen and senators how to vote. And the slogan of Occupy Peace is liberty, love, joy, and beauty. And it becomes that to us, or to me, is the key to it all. If you have a crazy person blowing other people's brains out, what's different than a crazy politician saying we should go to another nation and blow somebody's brains out that I don't like? If I came to you and said, listen, Edward, I don't like this guy that's down the block from me. I need some money to buy a gun so I can kill this SOB. And you gave me money to do that, would you be an accessory to the crime?
Absolutely. Absolutely would be.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Americans are accessories to mass murder and high crimes. So that's why you're seeing the degradation going down at so many other levels.
This guy here Italian too,
it's
man.
your generation, my generation, new generations. It's everybody together. If we change the morality, the whole course of the nation changes. It took until the Black Plague to wipe out Europe. 60% of them, depending on whose numbers you look at, were wiped out. What followed it? A renaissance. They realized that everything they were doing was wrong. And what did they do? They went back to the past. Ali Romana e all'antica, in the manner of the Romans and the ancients.
John 10 and 10, man.
Describe the quality of what they were producing. And we see the beauty of the Renaissance.
The thief come not but to steal and to
that's
kill
what America
and to destroy.
needs. A renaissance.
A renaissance,
to
man.
restore the beauty rather than destroy the earth by wars and stealing money, giving it to their buddies, and look at the destruction of the cities. Look what this country looks like.
In ruins, man.
You know, I mean, I grew up in New York. I can't stand to go down to that place anymore. They changed all the zoning laws. You know, all this ugly crap up, all this glass junk. You used to have beautiful buildings. Beautiful. Art Deco. Class, style, elegance. Gone. For the bottom line. And that's what we become, a bottom line society and a bottom line.
So you believe that it comes from inside. The people themselves have to shift to morality and not look to maybe a president like President Donald Trump
come
to
down
solve
and
this
sit in the
for them.
dust,
It can-
O
it can only
virgin
happen at the
daughter of
grass level.
Babylon. It's
You know,
over,
it happens in
man.
your own life. You are who you are, and you make what you make because you did it, and you who you became. I mean, you look there. Look at the studies that are coming out on the health of America and what it's costing us, the obesity rates. It takes work to stay in shape. If you don't do it, you know what the results are going to be. So, and that it goes on at every level. To me, it's about the individual. It's about physical, spiritual, and I mean spiritual in not a religious sense, but in a bigger sense, physical and mental. You know, it's what are you doing to improve your own life and to make it better around you. And to me, that's where it starts and that's where it ends. You know, I wasn't put on this. It took me to 2 birthdays ago to write this one line, and I won't give you the whole line because you'll bleep it out. I was not put on this earth to take orders from, and you could put the other 2 words in it. And I don't take orders. I don't give orders. You know, I know what I should be doing. I don't need a politician to tell me what to do. And that's what America's become. And not only America, around the world. You know, name the country. You were talking about Brexit. We were talking about France. I mean, you look up to a Macron, a May, a Merkel. You know, how about a Mickey Mouse and a Donald Duck, an Obama, a Clinton, a Bush? I mean, give me a break. You know, not for me. If, hey, you want to do it, knock yourself out. But to me, it's about the individual and the individual spirit rising to raise the whole element of society. And we haven't done that. Go back to the happiest, hottest music America ever knew. It was swing time. Great Depression. Great Depression. There's a picture, by the way, right behind me of my parents' wedding.
Very beautiful.
1934. Everybody's elegantly dressed. They worked in fish stores, you know, they have grocery stores, they have laborers. Everybody elegantly dressed. And they hardly make ends meet. Swing time, the happiest, hottest music during the worst economic crisis in modern history in America. Why? No wars going on. Not fear and terror. And that's what we're living in. A mindset of fear and terror can't create joy and beauty, in my belief.
Well, I think that will be the last word, Mr. Celente. Sir,
You see? Hey, man. These Edomites don't do nothing but steal, kill, and destroy, man. That's why the Lord said this, man, in Isaiah 47. Okay, the verse about come down and sit in the dust. Hey, he told you, man. He can't even stand to go down to New York, man, because it's all destroyed. Hey, they done changed. Hey, man, this is the lowest of the low, man. This is Isaiah 47, verse 5. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans. But thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Who is the Lady of Kingdoms? North America, man. Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, mystery Babylon, man. I tell you in Revelation 17, the harlot that sits on the scarlet colored beast. Who's the harlot? North America, man. Okay? Who is the beast? EU and NATO. And you hear him going in on EU, man. Okay? These Edomites have destroyed this country, man. But that's what they was created to do, man. A thief come not but to steal and to kill and to destroy, man. These Edomites, hey, man, their kingdom is finished, man. The Lord told Isaiah to say what? For thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms, man. They are finished, okay? Finished. For thou shalt no more be called Lady of Kingdoms. No more. And thou sayest, I shall be a lady forever. This Isaiah 47:7. For thou sayest, I shall be a lady forever. So that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither did thou remember the latter end of it. They don't even remember the latter end of what happened to their ass in the Roman Empire, man. They don't even consider, man. Okay? Because they consider themselves to be the ladies of kingdom, man. Which they are not, man. Hey, that's a beautiful clip, man. Hey, so with that one, say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the Ark pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect. And he was talking about the music too, man. Hey, it tell you that when the grinding shall cease, the doors shall be shut in the streets, man. And the daughters of music shall be brought low, man. So this kingdom is finished, man. We just waiting on the major prophecy, which is RFID microchip, man. Hey, so with that, I'll pray to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Hey, Shalom. And Shalom to the Akim, to the Akwaf and the Akim, who are listening and learning.